You're listening to Double Time, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Steven Scott and Shaun Priest.
Oh, hello, Shaun Priest. How are you?
I am gorgeous, thank you, Steven Scott. How are you, more to the point?
I'm good. What day are we at here? I feel lost in my days. You know that thing that we remember at like the beginning of the pandemic when we were all locked down, and I started to understand why my mum never knew what day it was. Because, she was living, she's at home, she's no longer working. She would always get confused about what day it was. And I'm like, hang on, how do you not know what day it is? And then suddenly I didn't know what day it is. So, Shaun, I guess this is a very roundabout way of asking, what day is it?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Steven Scott, because it is, of course, Double Thursday.
Oh,
yes,
no.
Night managers out there. Today is the day where you get double experience points for every battle. So check it out. Night Manager, only on the Amazon Echo Smart Speaker.
I will say, I think you're bringing a lot of Night Manager followers to our program. So I think you should talk about this more. Yeah, because I'm getting emails about it all the time. And most of the emails say, why are you not on this, Steven? And, I don't have the heart to go back and say, I've got a life. So I just,
Unbelievable. Discrimination, sir. It's very addictive. I'm telling you, you'll love it.
That's why I'm not going near it. No. I have a very addictive personality in that regard. And so I would probably end up getting like really hooked in, and I'd never see my family again. Look, it's funny because I was watching a video this morning, and it was Linus, the Canadian YouTuber, and
of course
he was doing a video on, I don't know how old these videos are, but it just came up in the feed, and he was setting up this rig for a Euro Truck Simulator experience. So he had like 3 55-inch TVs. He had a huge steering wheel. He had the big cranking kind of gear thing that they had built for him, and all this stuff. I think the whole thing cost like $10,000, and it was just incredible. And I'm sitting there so jealous. Yeah, but that's the problem, because when I played that game, hours would disappear. In fact, actually during lockdown, funny I mentioned that, during lockdown I used to play that game all the time, and I'd sit on Clubhouse. So I'd sit on Clubhouse chatting away to people, and I would be driving my truck, and it was like the best time of my life. I loved it.
Yeah, well, it was a very high-octane game, isn't it? Delivering apples to Frankfurt, which takes, in real time, probably, 24 hours. You used to love that.
I did.
You know what, Steven Scott? Let it go.
I know. I want to go back to it, but I just don't think it's going to happen. No. This is terrible. I want to drive my truck. I want to do it on here.
It's just buy a bigger TV. That's what we always try, right? 50-inch didn't work. 65-inch still doesn't work. Let's try for a 75-inch. You know what? At some point, you got to say, I can't play it anymore.
Can I tell you, in the back bedroom, we've got a 75-inch TV on the wall. I have no idea why, but it was one of the purchases we made as part of the TV show. It was like meant to be a TV background. So the background would, instead of being an actual background, it was going to be like a TV. And it never worked out. Yeah. So
live in that TV's box, probably.
But I had to sort of sit in front of it, right? So it had to kind of be larger than me. So that was the slight problem. So I don't think 75-inch TV quite cut it, to be honest. So there it is. It's now in the back room. It's the weird. I mean, when people come to stay in our house, they don't want to leave because they say, "Hang on a minute, so I can go up to the spare bedroom and put on a 75-inch TV with satellite and the sports." My father-in-law just doesn't want to leave the house when he comes here. He's like, "This is great."
It's like a cinema in your house. That's amazing.
But I was sitting thinking last night, I could get that TV through here, and I could get that on the wall, and I could try again. Is that a waste of time?
It's not going to make any difference.
I know.
It's a bigger blur, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was slightly depressing.
Thoroughly depressed.
Well done.
Right, how are you getting on with the old Kane situation? Because a lot of people have been writing in concerned about you.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
That's
well,
good to know.
Generally, I think, but specifically about the Kane.
Actually, I should say I need to publicly apologize to the RNIB. I know this is unusual for me, but you know what? I did the other day. I came on and I mentioned that the tip had fallen off my cane, and I only had one cane left because I've got about a whole rack in my porch of canes without any tips on them. So this was it. I had no cane to use. So I went to the RNIB online store And I was complaining. I thought it was a dreadful experience. And I'm not apologizing about that because I still think it is. But I also said that how is it in this day and age that you don't have next day delivery? Because you can ring them up and order on the phone, which was great, fine. But they were saying, we say 14 days, give it 14 days delivery. And I was outraged, Stephen Scott. I've got to say, I threw a little bit of a tantrum.
Yeah,
this is
quite
ridiculous. Right. I'm caneless. I need a cane. I want it next day. And, so I came on here and had a little bit of a weep and cry about it. But I've got to say, you know what? A new cane and 3 roller tips turned up the very next day. I mean, not after crying about it on here. I mean, after I ordered it online, they did turn up the next day. Obviously, they use the articles for the blind labels for postage over here in the UK. And it's basically first-class postage system. But it showed up the very next day. So I've got to take it back and say, you know what, they did a good job. And I still say the online store definitely needs ripping down and sorting out. But I did get that shiny new cane. And what is it about a new cane? Oh, the action was so smooth. I was rolling it all around. Oh, it was beautiful. It was like I was walking on velvet. And then I stuck the new tips on my old battered canes. So now I've got 3 new canes. Well, 3 canes. 1 for best, 1 for dog walking, and the other one just for spare. So
one for Sunday best.
Yes, it is actually. Yeah, I got the longest one they did, 150 centimeters, I believe. But yes, it's not got any mud or any digs or gouges or chips in it. So that's my one for when I'm going out. It's
funny. So much has changed. I remember growing up, I could not care less what state my cane was in. It was just the cane, it did the job. But now people are taking care of their canes in that way, kind of making them look nice and, have them coloured and have, diamonds encrusted in them or whatever. It's kind of nice. It is nice.
You need to personalize it. It's something that I need out with me all the time. So,
and it's an extension of you. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's like an iPhone case, isn't it? Let's be honest. You have a different style. You maybe have a different style for going out. You might have a different one for traveling. It makes sense to me.
No, absolutely, and I understand as well. I mean, I can hear the conversation coming up where it's got to look a certain way. It's got to be a white cane, otherwise you confuse members of the public, and I get that, but I still feel, hey, this is something I use every day. I don't want it to feel like a medical aid, a clinical thing. This is something personal to me. But it's funny because I've got 2 canes where they've actually snapped at the bottom, so I can't just replace the roller tip. I'm keeping them because I really want to get into I want to get into the maintenance of these, because I've always just grabbed a cane and used it. I've never really disassembled a cane before. I want to take this thing apart.
Let's go with it.
It is now. Disassembled a cane before. I want to know how this thing works. I want to take that elastic out. Can I swap out? Can I make a longer cane out of 2 broken canes?
Calm down. You've just got a new cane, right? Leave it alone.
I want to chrome it up. I want to paint it. I want flames up the side. I'm going to get into customized canes. Never going to happen, but that's
okay. Right. Well, anyway, look. Before you start all that,
dismiss me, sir.
I'm dismissing you. I'm disassembling you as we speak.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so Pete got in touch in particular around this conversation on the RNIB website, the point that you brought up the other day.
Thank you, Shaun. I was so relieved to hear that you thought the RNIB website was rubbish. I thought it was me. I've tried to look for products on the RNIB website on several occasions and just given up in total desperation. It always results in me calling the RNIB shop directly and placing an order. The staff are always extremely polite and very helpful, and the products arrive when they say. I have told them on various occasions that I think that their website is poor and that I regularly buy goods on Amazon with no problem whatsoever and goods arrive next day. It seems hard to believe that a website selling products to visually impaired people is so difficult to work with. Perhaps your rant, and maybe that of others, will push RNIB into getting their act together. Love the banter and the occasional bit of techie news. Grandpa Peter from Devon.
Oh, thank you, Grandpa Peter. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Pappy. Yeah, no, I agree. I was quite surprised by it. Now, I have used it before, but I don't know if I was just following a direct link, which took me to a product page and did it that way. But this well, I can't remember, but this was my first time, I think, of actually searching for it like fresh. And yeah, I was really surprised how difficult it was. The search wasn't easy. You know, I mean, we talk about accessibility all the time, and you just expect it from the RNIB online shop. So I agree. I think it definitely needs looking at. It could be done so much more, well, more accessible, funnily enough. It's not that it's not accessible, it's not usable, very usable.
You kind of think it'd be cool. You know, we've been talking about InnoSearch for Amazon searches, which is now, by the way, I thank you to those who've been commenting on this, in particular on the YouTube video, saying that InnoSearch is available in the US, Canada, and the UK. So that is going to be my weekend. I think this weekend I'll be checking out InnoSearch and seeing what it was like. I'm going to buy something. We'll pick something. We'll just buy it.
Of course you are.
Because, you know, we'll do a What Steven Bought This Week segment. We haven't done one of those in a while. We need to do one of those.
What Steven bought this week?
Okay.
Nothing. That's the point. Nothing.
Well, you haven't had time, have you? You've been ripping your studio to pieces.
Well, actually, that's not strictly true. I've been buying cables by the truckload. But no waste. No waste over here at Double Tap Towers. No waste. Because what I've been doing is bagging all the cables that I had and then putting them in the loft so that next time when I decide to change all this again, which by the way will never happen because I'm settled and this is it and this studio will never be changed again.
Yes, okay.
I actually choked on myself saying that.
Right. Let me stop you there. So you've took the existing cables that you had, bagged them all up and put them in the attic or the loft, right? Ready for reuse. By the way, you will absolutely just forget you've got them up there.
Yeah, of course.
So the new cables that you bought, were they different? Were they not USB? Were they a different type?
No, the problem is, so every cable was about 15 meters long. So when you've moved all the equipment from, say, an external place, so all the computer equipment was in another room, and then cabling was running through the wall to get to my desk. Because bear in mind, as I was saying yesterday, this was all built for TV, right? So we wanted as little noise in the room as possible. It's different when you're doing a radio show or you're doing this kind of thing because, you know, you've got a microphone that can cancel out a lot of that background noise. So you don't have to worry about it, you see. You don't hear any of that background noise.
I'll let you off.
Thank you. So for that reason, I thought, let's bring all the equipment back into this room because... For a start, there was a lot of heat build-up. I mean, there's a lot of heat build-up in here as well, but it's dissipated by the air conditioning. The heat build-up, by the way, yes, it is me. It's not the equipment. Yes. I'm pretty sure that when I leave the room, it gets cooler, even with the equipment running. But yeah, so for that reason, all my cables are either too long or too short for the job. So I had to buy more. So that's it. That's all I did. Why are you victimizing me here?
I'm not. I'm trying to save your wallet. To be honest with you,
thank you.
Apart from the cables that are too short, the ones that are too long, you do know you can sort of fold them up. You can cable manage them.
Oh,
you can
stop
tie
it.
them up.
For a 15-meter cable to go on like a 1 meter run.
What's wrong with that?
Do you know? I'll tell you what happened there. Right.
Yes.
Most of I did try that on a couple of occasions because I didn't have all the cables at first. They all kept falling out because the sheer weight of the cable pulled the thing out.
It's like a hose pipe for real. Yeah, okay.
It's going to break all my USB ports if I keep that up. So yeah, not doing that again. Listen, Shafiq also wants to comment on this on the Kane situation.
Hi, Shaun and Steven. This is Shafiq. Sorry to hear Shaun broke his white cane. As you are in Britain, every major town has a rehabilitation officer.
Mm-hmm.
If there's none in your town, I'm sure you can find in your nearest cities. Every blind society have a resource center where they do keep stock of white cans. Don't wait for our RNIB to send you the can in 5 days. Just phone your local voluntary organization or rehabilitation officer. They will be able to provide you with a can. If they can't provide you free, they will definitely sell you one. Good luck for future.
Thank you, Shafiq. Good point, actually. Did you call the local rehabilitation social work people?
And no, it is an excellent point because if you were really stuck and you wanted to go out and you didn't have a cane, of course, you're absolutely right, Shafiq. I will say, though, I've rang my rehabilitation, what would you call it, department, office, whatever, a couple of times in the past. And it's like, they only work 1 day a week or 2 days a week or,
I think they're just telling you that.
Well, yeah, maybe, but I mean, the resources are so limited now.
Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right. It's a good place to check out. And as you've mentioned, there are local, just sight loss organizations you could try as well. So, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shafiq. Thank you for all your messages as well. We'll get to more of those tomorrow. But coming up later today, Tim Dixon's back with us, Shaun. Remember Tim came on, he was telling us all about Site Village. And while he was here, we were kind of leading towards the question, how did he manage to record the videos that he recorded while he was there? So he's going to join us a little bit later to dive into that and give us a few of his tips when it comes to recording video. So looking forward to that. But first, I want to get to a couple of updates. So the Victor Reader Stream 3 has a shiny new update for you. Ooh. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to be updating mine very shortly. So a couple of new things in here. An a cappella voice update. They've got a new Canadian voice, Melanie, which is available in both French, Melanie, and English. Melanie.
Please never do.
Sorry. Yeah, so Melanie or Melanie.
What did I just say? It's funny. Someone said to me the other day, you don't get Canadian voices for TTS. Where's the Canadian voices?
Yeah, you don't get many.
That's a very good point.
Well, you do now. And bear in mind, HumanWare is a Canadian company, so you think that would be high on the list.
Fair enough.
But yes, so fantastic news that the a cappella voice update from 12 to 12.1. Also, Bluetooth profile support has been improved and extended to support a broader range of devices, including some hearing aids. Now, they are saying that this is ongoing work, but if you've got a device that didn't connect, try it again. Other improvements will be made in the next versions. So clearly trying to bring in more devices. Which is fantastic. For those who use notes, and we're going to talk a little bit about note taking because this comes up a lot on our show. They've added a new functionality, note categories. So before you would just have a big, bank of notes, but now you can create categories for the notes. Now by default, the current notes are in the generic category, but then you can create any number of categories you want and move your notes into them. So you can kind of order up things a little bit more, which actually seems like a really simple feature in some ways, but actually kind of powerful when you're, especially when you're taking notes all the time. You might have one for phone numbers, you might have one for a shopping list, and you can just add your note to that list.
It's just a must-have, I think. Yeah. Because, when you're taking notes, once you got 4 or 5 in there, you think, oh, this is fine, I can quickly find it. But as you said, once you take in more and more telephone numbers or whatever, trying to go through a list of 40 or 50 notes is hard work. So you need this. Yeah, so it's a good update.
And on top of that, notes can now be created in the internal memory on the stream. So if you don't have an SD card, you can actually choose. You can also choose the default storage space as the internal memory in settings now, which again is useful if you're constantly swapping out SD cards, as some people who use the stream do. You might be going between different cards for different things. You might not want your notes to go with it. You want them to stay on the device. Now they can. There's lots of features in here. We'll put the link to the full release notes in our show notes. But there's one other I want to mention, which is added an option for key beeps. Now you can turn all the beeps off, all on, or have them play beep. Or have the play beep only. Have the play beep only. I'm not sure what that means, but okay.
So when it's playing something, it beeps. Okay.
Have the play beep only. I don't understand.
I don't know.
I need more coffee. But anyway, there you go. Lots of stuff in there. It's well worth doing the update, and it's great to see them developing this. I mean, look, this is the great thing about the Victor Reader. A lot of people were unhappy with the new version, the 3rd generation that came out, and I think it's partly driven by the fact that it felt like it was a little bit behind the Stream 2, which had been around for 10 years. But the difference was, and the difference is, that you can update that device now. You can have that device updated, and you can, continually bring new features and functionalities. So if something's not right, you don't have to go and buy a new device. You can just get the update. And I think that's vital. And I think it's kind of brought that particular piece of technology into the 21st century, which is fantastic. Speaking of recording notes, there's another device I want to mention, which is the MicroSpeak. Now, MicroSpeak It's one of those weird little things that comes along every so often. People talk about it because its price point is good and it's really functional. And it's been very popular. And it was kind of, I think, because I remember the marketing when it came out was kind of aimed at kids who wanted to record their own voice. You know, back in the days when we had tape recorders. If you're a certain age, I know some people watch this show on YouTube, you may be a certain age, you will have no idea what that is. Go ask your mum and dad. But the thing is, you know, this is basically a cool little device that just very simply lets you record your notes. But they've started marketing this, I feel, more towards the blind community now. They've added a lot more into this. And when I heard it was back, I just thought it was back. I didn't realize it had a new version. So it's actually a new version of the MicroSpeak that's out. So, you know, what is it? Ultimately, it's a basic recorder. Very simple. Record instantly, press of a button. You can play back immediately via the built-in speaker. All tactile buttons on there as well. High recording quality as well in MP3 format, which is actually improved on the last one. So it has a larger power switch on the new model, more tactile buttons, and an SD card slot, which the old one did as well. But the audio prompt software on it has been improved, and the mini USB socket has been changed over to USB-C.
Oh, perfect.
The European Union is just getting into everything, isn't it?
Yes, and that's good news. I couldn't quite get the tone of your rant there, Stephen Scott. Was that angry or happy?
Well, personally, I'm quite happy by that. I've got so many. It's funny now because if I've got an iPhone 11 here, right? Because we've got the WhatsApp number, and it's on an iPhone 11. I keep that number on the iPhone 11 because of WhatsApp. You need to attach it to a phone, and
Yes.
Every so often I'm like, I have to charge this thing up. Thank goodness it's got wireless charging in it, because I could not be bothered trying to find a lightning cable around here, right? And it's the same with many USBs and I have micro USBs and all that nonsense. I just can't find them anymore. So yeah, USB-C is the way forward.
impossible. No, they're impossible. Anyway, have you used this new one yet?
Not the new one. No, I had the old one.
You had
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, lots of people had the old one. It's just so simple to use. It's one of those things that's just nice to have. I wonder how much is it now? Is it increased in price?
I'm getting there.
All right, sorry.
It has gone up a little bit in price. Yes, it has. But yeah, let's talk about this. So you now get a micro SD card included in the box, which I don't think you got before. 1 gig.
Oh, that's
so
more than enough for dictation.
And it says it's a micro SD card, but it says also it's an SD card slot. So maybe it's an SD card with one of those little adapters, possibly. Yeah. So it says that will give you around 15 hours of recording time, which seems reasonable enough. You can record. Now, what can you do with it, right? What would you do with it? Well, a lot of people are going to record reminders, shopping lists, telephone numbers, emergency contacts, maybe organizing appointments or events, just taking brief notes, basically. And the spoken prompts on this are now saying that it will be able to help with recording, deleting files, detecting the battery level on the device. There's a built-in microphone as well, obviously, which allows you to record all this, and it now records high-quality MP3. Yeah, thank you. Well, as opposed to, having to connect up another one. And by the way, you got to buy the additional microphone to go with it. But the built-in microphone records high-quality MP3 at 128 kilobits per second sample rate. You can plug in headphones. Yes, headphone jack. And in terms of
15
buttons,
hours on 1 gig, and it's recording at 128. That should do like 3 weeks worth of that bit rate. That seems a little bit weird. I thought it would be higher bit rate.
I will defer to your knowledge on this. Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
So in terms of pricing, okay, so here's where we're at. So available in various territories now. In Canada, available from specialneedscomputers.ca. You can get it there for 149 Canadian dollars. That price, of course, is, I don't know about sales taxes included in these, of course. You often have to add those local sales taxes. No idea. But it's just really weird in Canada. I find this in the US as well. Whatever the price is, when you get to the checkout, they say, it's now, trebled in price. What happened there? In the UK, in good old Blighty, you just turn up at the checkout. That's the price. That's what I pay. Or if did you ever do that thing when you were younger, when you would go into, say, a CD shop and maybe take off a little label off, like
never
a cheaper
in my
CD,
life,
and then attach it to the other. It's not. It was purely creative accounting.
Wait. Can I just say, for legal reasons, it is common thievery. Don't say it's not. Do not do that. It's wrong.
I only did it. Well, actually, it was a friend of mine did it.
Right,
okay, moving on.
Wow.
I don't think. I actually don't think I would have done it, to be honest, because I don't think I could be bothered. But I do know people that did.
Stop it.
Yes.
Leave it alone. I was going to say, I'm going to really age myself. This is a perfect device to have on your telephone table.
Telephone table. Wow.
Oh, come on. You're an age, sir. You must remember the telephone table. It had a pad, and a load of pens on it next to it, and you had the landline on it. Yeah, see, this is where you want one of those things. Except
so it's available from special needs computers in Canada for $149. Canadian Talking Products and RNIB as well, although coming soon to the RNIB shop at £60. And AT Guys is where you'll get it in the USA for $69. Our good friends over there at AT Guys. That sounds pretty cool. It's just nice to see these options available and at low cost as well. So, yeah. Anyway,
this telephone table.
Yes, thank you, Shaun. This is Double Tap. Coming up next, Tim Dixon's here. But first, if you want to get involved in the show, here's how.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Okay, let's talk to our good friend Tim Dixon, who's back with us again. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Hey, Stephen. Hey, Shaun. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, you must have done something right, Tim. We've got you back anytime.
When?
Oh, I think you know, because, of course, since your appearance here when you talked to us all about Site Village and your experience going there, and not only that, but also the filming the videos you did for us, we've had a lot of people getting in touch asking the obvious question, which is, how did you do that, Tim? So we thought we'd get you back to say, how did you do that, Tim?
You mean I've got to spill my secrets of how I did it?
Tell the secrets. Look, I give away all our secrets of Double Tap, so, come on.
Well, yeah,
it's
that's
time for
fair.
you to spill
That's
yours.
fair. There isn't any secrets, really.
Okay.
So I guess just explaining what kit I had.
Yeah, look, okay, first off, there's the, what you take, because there's I don't know about you, but whenever I'm going anywhere, I have this day of panic before I go anywhere of what am I taking? What will I need? Is there a let's just say an equivalent of Best Buy nearby in case I miss something or forget something? But of course, the kit we need these days to record is far less. I mean, the days I used to go out with, goodness me, a mini disc recorder and a microphone and an XLR to a 3.5mm cable so I could, connect the microphone to the mini disc, a pair of wired earphones.
Make sure you take the mini disc. Really excited at all of these acronyms. And then there's the rest of us like me that has no idea what you're talking about, Stephen.
Wow, seriously? You never used mini disc?
I know mini disc. XLR 3.5.
I vaguely
know.
Well,
I vaguely know.
Technical terms, yes. But basically, I would take all my stuff out, and of course the key was to remember to take the mini disc with you and spare batteries. Because in those days, these things would last about 10 minutes.
You did a kit bag.
And I remember at the time.
It's called a kit bag.
Well, that's right. No, and that's right. And in my job, I did have something like that. But the problem was people shared the kit bag, which is always a bad thing. So you'd have like the kit bag for the news team. And I would go out. And I remember once going out to interview the then Prime Minister of the country, the UK that is, in case you're wondering where you're listening. And I interviewed Gordon Brown at the time, who was notoriously, how can I put this, bad-tempered.
He was Scottish. Yeah.
Indeed.
What are you trying to say, Shaun?
Nothing.
No, whatever he's saying, he's right. He's absolutely right. And so I met up with him. It was a blistering hot day on the shores of Loch Lomond, and I interviewed him beside a car because he was getting in the car to get as far away from me as possible. And I interviewed him, and just at the end of the interview, which was 6 minutes long, he said to me, "Okay, we all good?" And I said, "Let me just check the recording." And it hadn't recorded because the mini disc wasn't in the machine. I was so, key on getting him, I wasn't even aware that I hadn't put the mini disc in. So I then had to ask him if I could do it again. And let's just say he wasn't happy about it at all. And that's putting it very mildly. I'm sure he used what would maybe be considered incorrect political language.
You didn't record that bit, did you? That'd be great.
I got a bit of a telling off. No, I didn't get that one, sadly. But I did get the interview again, which was good at least. But yeah, things have changed a lot. That's what I'm getting at. And the kit we need to take these days is pretty much, in my case, my iPhone. If I don't have my iPhone with me fully charged, I've got nothing. Was that the case for you, Tim?
Yeah. So for me, it was iPhone was primary. Power bank, just in case. Should last all day, but just in case. And then following the recommendations about microphones, I'd got myself an Audio-Technica ATX 2100, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which plugs into the bottom, some old Apple AirPods for listening back. And then there was one thing that I did buy specifically to go to Site Village with, and that was an Insta360 Flow Pro gimbal for putting my iPhone on to make sure it was nice and steady as I moved around getting camera footage.
Now, hang on. Now, you were a bit confused by XLRs and 3.5 mils. I can imagine a lot of people saying, what on earth is a gimbal?
Right. So a gimbal is you clip your phone into it, and it provides a balance. So as you move left, it keeps the camera steady, so you don't get any wobbles. This particular gimbal has lots of extra features, like you can pull it out as a selfie stick to make the camera further away from you. You can pop the bottom out as a tripod, so you can put the camera down. And then there's some advanced tracking features, which the reason I picked this particular gimbal was it integrates into Apple's DocKit technology. So it natively does the tracking in the Apple apps, knowing that that's fully accessible, whereas the Insta360 app is not accessible, as we'd expect.
Yeah.
So the gimbal is... it's a little weird in that respect, that it will keep the camera steady and it can move it if you want, and you can use a little joystick on it to move where the camera is left and right. There's buttons you can press that'll flip it around, so it'll turn it around completely or change from portrait to landscape. So this trip was my first getting used to using that gimbal, and really it was the tracking that I was interested in. In reality, I didn't actually use the tracking. I realized that I couldn't get the camera far enough away and use the rear camera and have any idea about what it was doing, and keep me and the person I was interviewing in frame. So I opted for just using it to hold and steady the camera footage. And then holding the microphone, which if there's anyone with a little bit of vision may have seen that microphone didn't always stay out of camera, which is a lesson to learn. But it was nice knowing that it was steady footage.
Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's so difficult because you're so anxious about missing it, like Gordon Brown and Stephen Scott there. It's almost like you don't want to miss that first chat that you have, which is more, off the cuff. You're more casual, more relaxed. Having to redo it, apart from taking the time off the other person, the guy you're interviewing, it just doesn't feel the same. So it's all about trying to get it right the first time, and it must make you anxious, especially, we're talking about video here as well. Usually, it was audio and a little bit easier for us to handle. But now we're talking video as well because of YouTube. Did that really stress you out, or were you okay with it?
I'd spoken to you both before I went, and for me, I knew that whatever we got out of it, we could do something with it. So yes, there's a bit of, does it look right? But I didn't go back and do any of the interviews, even though I got the microphone in camera view. I just learnt as I went along. So I think Graham Longley was the first person I interviewed. I think it took me 10 minutes to untangle the headphone cable and get it all set up. and by which time poor Graham had been dragged back onto the stall, and a bit of waiting around, but very much appreciate his patience to come back and do the interview. So it can be anxiety inducing, but I think I was just enjoying it more than anything else. I got this for doing this for me, for a bit of fun, to make me feel better and give something back to Double Tap's community. So it was a lot about having fun.
And we made that very clear to you as well, that, anything you can give us, we will take, and we'd be very happy to receive. So we didn't want to put any pressure on you to say, hey, we need it to be filmed this way. We need B-roll. We need, second shots. We don't need any of that stuff. Just get what you can. And actually, I think as a result of all of that, we got excellent footage, because I was actually approached by a few people afterwards who said, oh, who was your videographer at Site Village? And I'm like, it was Tim, the guy who did the interviews. And he's like, wow. And I guess that the barrier of entry to videoing now has come right down because of things like the iPhone, right? Yeah. And because of the accessibility of that, because you do have the voiceover telling you in your ear, if you choose to, that, the person's in frame, or if there's two people there, there's two people in frame, and where they are in the frame and all of that. That's really useful stuff, because it does enable you to get that information. So you can be confident that what you're filming is correct. Because I'm not a videographer either, right? That's not my thing. I'm a radio guy. I can interview people day and night. I enjoy that. I love that. You add a camera to the mix, it just adds a headache to me. And when I was in Amsterdam for the CES event last year, it was quite unnerving because I was on my own and I was filming for the then TV show. And there I am, with a camera. I'd taken along a monopod. And the reason I did that was because I didn't want to put a tripod up in case I tripped people up, because I probably would. I wouldn't see other people around me, and I'd probably trip myself up if nothing else. So having a monopod means it's literally standing in front of me, single pole, and I know the camera's fairly steady, and it was okay. It worked reasonably well. But there's a huge amount of nervousness in that, because something goes wrong, or the camera gets smudged, or someone moves because you've asked them to stay in position but they move. These are all the things that can happen. I guess what we have to consider is the expectations. We are blind people going out there trying to make video. We'll do our best, but you'll get what you get. And that's always been a bit of my mantra with this, because I don't want there to be an expectation that we're going to create some kind of Steven Spielberg production every time we go somewhere, because it's just not going to happen. And that, I guess, taking that expectation away maybe made it a little bit easier for you, and it allowed you to play and therefore get the result.
Absolutely.
And the results were amazing.
Unlike, thanks, Sean.
Yeah, they were.
Thanks, Stephen. Unlike yourself, Stephen, where you needed to get that video because it was for the live show, that adds a level of pressure. You guys made it very clear, do what you can and just have fun with it, which allowed, as you said, it really allowed me just to go and have fun, experiment a bit. I think I'd taken my dad along, and
willingly.
Well, you saw the video, Stephen. Maybe not so willingly.
It was, yeah. He when you asked him the question on that little video tester you sent me, when you asked him, are you enjoying yourself? The silence spoke volumes.
He was just camera shy. That's all.
That's right. Let's go with that. Yeah.
But I quickly realised with that tester that asking my dad, who sighted, to hold the camera and do any footage was not going to work. So I needed to keep control of that. But do
you think that's what it's about, Tim? Do you think there's a little bit of that? I certainly feel this way a little bit. I do a lot of the video editing for this program, and I know I struggle with it. But there's an element of control, right? There's an element of holding on to control of it. Yes, there are people around who can help. Yes, there are people who can probably do it much better than I can. I have no doubt. In fact, I know there are people who can do it much better than I can. That's in no doubt at all. But the point is that I just want to have that level of control. And do you think maybe there's a bit of that with you as well? It's a case of, no, I want to do this. I don't want someone else doing it for me.
Yeah, there was definitely part of that.
That's perfectly natural, right? That's not it's not like a bad thing. Of course you want control. No, you want to be able to do it yourself. And there's no reason you can't. It's just about getting the confidence up, and not feeling that pressure. And just, we wanted to make it clear that, hey, you're going there to, on your own time. and just have a good time. Do whatever you want to do. If you manage
Yeah.
to record something, that's great. But if you don't, you don't. But I mean, it's just the stuff you came back with was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I don't know about the video. I'm assuming it's great. The audio was fantastic. You sounded really comfortable doing the interviews and everything as well.
I did, and I think it's comes back to, it was a year and a half ago I did some audio clips for you when I went to Site Village Central.
That's right,
And that really piqued my enjoyment of that. I hadn't realised what it was like. I thought, I'll just have a go at it. And it's really enjoyable. And people like Jason at Vision Aid and Philip at Scene Solutions, they've known me now because I've done it previously. I even had other people saying, hey, you're going to do some video for us. Are you doing all sorts of things? It's like, you don't have any tech. I'm not interested.
Wow. Someone's
Yeah.
got a little bit harsh.
No, that was more harsh than it was meant, but it was like, I'm doing this to do show tech. So if there isn't tech there and it's not for a broad audience, then
It's not for
there's
me.
no
Yeah.
point in me recording it.
Let's talk a little bit about what you did in terms of recording. So you used the iPhone.
Yeah.
Tell us about the settings you used and all the kind of things you did and the preparation. Because obviously you used the gimbal and that's one thing, but setting up the phone, obviously you charged it all up, you got it all nice and charged, but you had to set settings as well. Anything in particular you did? Any tips you can give us?
The tip is one you gave me, Stephen, which is I set my recording to 4K. I'd actually set the video recording to 4K 60 frames per second. I've now altered that to 30 because the size is unbelievable. So there was that, and then as I went through the interviews, you may have noticed, and your excellent editing, Stephen, may not have noticed that some of it I actually used the wide angle lens. So I got much more of the area in, which meant that I had to pay less attention to where people were. I think it was particularly Gosha at the Wee Walk, where I had it massively zoomed out so that it allowed us to capture much more, and I took more of a step back. So settings would be the magnification or the zoom level, making sure that that's okay. And then just the 4K at 30 frames per second, because that gives editing room. And then I just tested. So I tested to make sure the microphone was coming through on the video, and make sure that was working. So do a little test clip, because my first one, it actually wasn't. So just making sure it works. And then I just let it record, just using the bog standard camera app, just as you would if you was at home, recording kids or family members, pets.
And how did you get on
And
with
that was
the audio side of it, the using the microphone? Because you mentioned it's a handheld microphone plugged into the bottom of the iPhone, right?
Yes. So I noticed before I went, I'd plugged the microphone into the iPhone, and because the gimbal's motorized for keeping it level, the weight of the cable, and potentially when you move and you pull on the cable, makes the gimbal misbehave. So I used a Velcro tie wrap to take the slack on the cable.
Yes.
So that meant that there wasn't anything pulling on the gimbal to disturb the gimbal. And then headphones in the bottom of the microphone. And that allowed me to hear how well I was getting somebody's voice. So that allows you to move. Now, having one microphone between two people can be a bit more challenging because you ask a question. So I've brought the microphone back to me, and you'll have heard it a couple of times. Getting the microphone back to them before they start responding is a bit more challenging. Tying the microphone to the iPhone also limits your movement, so it made it a little more difficult to get around. So I think if I was doing it again, I would look at some lavalier lapel mics and maybe going wireless to remove the boundaries there. But for what we did, it was absolutely fantastic and fine.
Yeah, this is another area where it gets interesting, isn't it? Because audio is improving all the time, and there are lots of cool ways now to connect microphones, and lavalier microphones are becoming more common because of your Instagram and your TikTok creators, and the price is coming down as well. So where you used to spend thousands upon thousands of pounds or dollars on these devices, now you can pick them up for less than $100, and even less than $50 in one case. I remember seeing one which was a very cheap lavalier kit. Basically, you had a receiver which would connect to your smartphone, and then you had two wireless microphones that were very, very small. Reminded me of the days, remember those iPods you used to get that had voiceover built in? They were like sticks of chewing gum.
Yeah, the shuffles.
And they were tiny, and a little clip on them.
Yeah.
And you that's all you do. You just clip it on, and that's it. It would automatically connect to the receiver. That was connected to your phone, and you could just hit record and go. Obviously, making sure you test. Now, the benefit of the microphone that you bought, and this is something that I cannot find a solution to at the moment, is a wireless send receive. So in other words, being able to hear the phone and also hear the microphone at the same time in a wireless solution. You can do it with wired. So with the microphone you've got, the Audio-Technica microphone, you're connecting a USB-C cable to that, I'm guessing, and then a USB-C into the phone. There's a headphone jack on the microphone, which allows you to hear back from the phone as well. So in my case, for example, if I'm doing a report back live to AMI or whatever, I need to be hardwired to do that. I can't do that wirelessly at the moment. There are tricks and ways to do it, but it's very messy, and it's not always perfect, especially when using a smartphone, because one of the downsides of a smartphone is you don't have the option in the software to necessarily select your microphone or select your headphones. You don't have the kind of granular level support that you would on a computer, which is why whenever I'm doing reports, I'm using my MacBook or my PC, because I have all those options to say, okay, I want to use this microphone. I want to, hear this on my AirPod. I want to use that mic. I can't do all that with this. So, that's the kind of reason why I've kind of held off using the wireless at the moment for me. But if you're just recording, then, having that lavalier mic option is good. And as you said, they're very small, very neat. You can hand it to the guest as well.
Yeah.
Because I remember the days when we used to have the wired lavalier microphones, and the amount of, up your jumper and all this carry-on nonsense you had to do, which, can immediately become very inappropriate. And what I used to do with people is just hand them the microphone and say, could you please do this yourself? And, that would avoid any embarrassments. Of course, always remember to take the microphone back, because the amount of times I'd leave without the microphone and we come back to that individual and say, please can I have my microphone back? So they're good. They have, benefits to them having these wireless kits. I know that Andre Louis, a well-known voice in the blind community, was talking about using the Rode Wireless Go microphones, the lavaliers, which Shaun's just got his hands on. I have a pair as well. They're nice, but they're not the most accessible. But once the settings are set in the app, once you do get it set up, you can have actually quite a nice recording kit there. And again, easy to use. Literally one button press to switch on, and they're recording. They are transmitting back to your smartphone, and you get lovely clean audio. And it means for a two-way interview, you're sitting talking to a guest, you can wear that microphone all day long, and you're just handing this microphone to the other person, which is all wireless. They can clip it onto their shirt or their jacket or whatever, and you're having a conversation, picking them up clearly, picking you up clearly. You're not having to worry about microphones and wires and all that carry on. So the technology is getting better all the time. And actually, just as a complete geek out aside on this, that gimbal you bought, I believe has a place in it. It's called the hot shoe, where you can basically connect that little wireless Go receiver. You can actually connect it to the gimbal. So you can actually have it there and then just connect a cable, a USB-C to USB-C cable from that to the phone, and then that's your audio sorted. So that's pretty cool as well. So you can kind of take it to the next level with something like that. But there's lots of ways to do it. I mean, DJI do that as well. They do microphones like this. I know I'm getting geeky, but
it's like
some people might be interested in this.
Yeah, but I think that
you think I did this from my living.
The important thing I think to take away from what Tim did though was this was an iPhone and a microphone. Basically, you did use the gimbal there on top for stability, but the kit that you used, a lot of people will have access to. The microphone, I thought the audio sounded amazing. Yeah, you did an amazing job with that. And for the Audio-Technica 2100X, I believe it's called, it's not a very expensive microphone. So I think
about £62, £63.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounds so good. I mean, I just want to make it clear that the kit that you're using, you don't have to go, into specific professional or even, buying lots and lots of kit. You can do it with an iPhone and a microphone.
Well, so the other side to this story is, because it's interesting when you get into this world, it's one thing recording audio, because when you've got audio, if it's just audio you're recording, you can then very easily just take an iPhone, turn it upside down and use it like a microphone. And that's it. That's your mic, because your mics are at the bottom. I know that these days they're pretty much all over the phone, but mostly at the bottom. What I do is I used to always give the same tips. I would say turn on Do Not Disturb, turn orientation lock off, turn your phone upside down so that the orientation changes, and then orientate lock that layout. So essentially your phone is now upside down. Go into voice memos or just press record, whatever your app of choice is. Start record, make sure your phone's on silent, make sure it's on Do Not Disturb, and start recording. And use your phone like you would a microphone. Think about it in the same way as if you're holding an actual microphone. So the same kind of distance, about a hand span away from your mouth and a hand span away from your guest's mouth, if you can do that, or if you need to, ask the guest to hold the phone. And that was it. That's what I used to tell people. Now, it's a bit different with video because you need distance from your subject. So the standard microphones will pick up, and certainly the newer iPhones are much better at this. But, if you're in a place like Site Village where there's lots of background noise, it's quite difficult sometimes to make sure that the audio is being pinpointed. Now, we know, of course, that iOS 18 and the new iPhones, especially the 16 Pros, have got cool new features to be able to isolate in. But we haven't had a chance to play with that yet or really understand how accessible all of that is. So we can't really say for sure how effective that is. So you kind of want that balance of getting close to the subject, but not too close, and still be able to hear them. And there are little solutions you can buy, like companies like Rode, for example, will sell what's called a shotgun microphone that will go into the USB port of your iPhone or Android phone, because of course now they're USB-C, they're applicable across devices. You can plug that device in, and essentially you're swinging that little shotgun microphone towards the subject. So it kind of sits at a right angle to the phone, and it's angling towards your subject. And the shotgun microphone is almost laser focused towards that center point that the camera is focusing on. And that allows you to get better audio from that person. It kind of avoids all the side noise. You don't want the stereo noise of all the crowd. You want the person you're speaking to, right? And, if you're a professional, what you would do is you would record the voice of the individual, and then later you record the stereo width, as they call wild track, which is basically the sound of the environment, which you can then add on later in a post-production. But if you're just wanting to get an interview with someone, as we do, then the focus is on the voice we're talking to. We're not interested in turning it into, again, a Steven Spielberg production. So there are ways to do it at very low cost. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And I just want to mention as well, the gimbal is... How much did you spend on the gimbal?
I think it was £140 and then another 20 to have the MagSafe fitting. So I didn't have to put a clamp around my phone.
Which is really nice, yeah. So that's cool. I spent $12.99 on my version, which did involve a clamp, but basically it literally has this kind of almost like a hand grip. And on top of the hand grip, you have the little bit which you insert the phone into. On top of that, there's actually a little hot shoe mount for a microphone or whatever else. It is very basic. It's a gimbal without any electronics whatsoever. It's literally just a handle for your phone, but it makes it so much easier to be able to walk around and just film without the need of, worrying about your phone being steady or trying to hold your phone in that position for a very long time. So that's another option. We'll put all this in the show notes so people can go and find this information out and decide what's best for you. But, there's lots of cheap and easy ways to do it. You don't have to be spending a fortune. And at the end of the day, if you're making content, say for Double Tap, and if I'm out doing that, that's what I'm using. I'm not spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on equipment anymore. I just don't need to. The smartphone's the brain of all of it. And, the best camera and the best audio recorder you have, you already own. So, and that's the case for pretty much any Android phone today, any iPhone today. They're all really, really good. And of course, you will get improved features in newer editions. But ultimately, what you've got is probably the most accessible to you, and it's also the most available because you don't have to go and buy it. You already got it. So problem solved. But very interesting, Tim. Thank you so much for doing it. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on and sharing your tips, because I know people want to do these things when they're out and about. And I mean, another thing, we've completely skipped over this, but Meta Ray-Bans is becoming the other way for a lot of blind people to get video now, because you don't have to worry about tripods or gimbals or holding phones up, because you're literally just pressing a button and looking in the general direction of someone's voice. And that's it. You suddenly captured video. We had Kevin Chow on recently doing just that. He was at an event and he used his Meta Ray-Bans just to record what he needed to record, and that was it. And I think that is fantastic. So, you know, the kit is there and we can use it. You know, the expectations of media today are getting bigger and bigger. You know, there's more expectation on us if we are putting our voices out there, not to be just in audio, but in video as well. But thank goodness that the barrier of entry is coming down so we can actually all do it and take part. So, Tim, again, huge thank you to you. We're going to talk more with you soon about a very interesting topic, which is fascinating to me, and that is the whole embossing world. So come back and we'll talk about that another time. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks, Tim.
And thank you for coming to my TED Talk today. Goodness me, do I talk? I did get a little bit excited in that one. I do geek out a little bit when it comes to audio. Hey, listen, we're out of time. Shaun, thank you again, and we will be back tomorrow with more. More, I say.
Thank you. Bye-bye.